Hi, this is Shelley Richardson, and this is a review of my website for 825 multicultural resources and services for libraries. For this site, I created a program, Battle of the Books for teens and young adults. I included infographics from this class on my site. I also included the author study that I used for this class. And the references are going to be the list that I used of recommended resources for the Battle of Books. Those of you who may be unfamiliar with what Battle of the Books is, in this context, I'm focusing on middle school students and teens in a public library setting. And Battle of the Books is basically a trivia-based game where the teens or young adults are in teams, and they try to answer trivia questions based on a predetermined set of titles they have read. An overview of the process in my creating this program. I'm currently I'm currently a patron experience associate at Stanley Lake Library, which is part of the Jefferson County Public Library System. And my favorite patron group to work with is teens and young adults. Just before the COVID shutdown in March of 2020, I had spent the previous 6 months planning a Battle of the Books program for our library that was scheduled to take place in April of that year. Obviously, I haven't been able to have that program yet, but it was really fun to try and plan that out and do all the research leading up to the event. It seemed like a no-brainer to try and transition the structure and resources of that program to one that uses multicultural resources instead. When we had originally planned this program in 2020, we chose popular titles within genres that we knew the teens would be receptive to. The genres we chose were mystery, dystopia, realistic fiction, and fantasy. So I have an overview of the planning for this type of program. You want to choose 4 or 5 recently published titles that have strong characters and plot, and the most important thing is that it's super popular, very cool to read, and appeals to a diverse audience. You want to work with your teen advisory board to come up with the list and then narrow down the finalists until you have that 4 or 5 titles that you're going to be reading. And actually read the books. You and any other staff person who's going to be at the program. It's very important to be familiar with the content. Try to market the program as far out as you can, because the teens are going to need time to get the books and read them in their own time. For the question portion of the trivia, it's a good idea to do a number of rounds. Give them about a minute to answer each question and then have a break in between each round. So you're going to create a visual presentation that goes with the quiz format. I recommend using Kahoot. That's what I used for planning my program, and it seemed to work pretty well. It's also an online quiz tool, so they can answer the questions through the Kahoot's website using either their phone, or we were going to lend out wireless devices for them to use. Also, it's a good idea to do a test run with either your teen advisory board or a group of your coworkers, just to make sure everything works okay and the timings are ideal. So like I said, I came up with some lists of recommended titles for these groups. I included a brief description of each of these titles as well. Um, the other class I'm taking this semester is collection development. And as a focus for the class, I chose to research and develop a special collection based on the American Library Association's Youth Literature Award winners. And many of those award-winning titles went into this list here. I also tried to choose at least one graphic novel for each of these subject areas. And I used titles that I learned about from my graphic novel, manga, and libraries class. And I also expanded my research into award-winning titles from these various subject areas. So in conclusion, this is a great program idea that you can use with your teens. It does take a bit of time and personal investment to come up with the titles and create the program, but I think it's a pretty exciting way to get teens into reading and invested and competitive even. So if you're interested in reviewing my website, the address is listed at the top of the page here, shelleyrichardsonwordpress.com/multicultural-resources. Thank you.